So, just a few moments ago, there's a chicken. I was standing in my yard, which is, freshly manicured by somebody else. And I was standing there, and I thought, God, it's been really great to be me. It's that song. Everybody loves it. It's the Joe Walsh song. The "Life's Been Good to Me So Far" song. That's people that. Although I think that song may have came out in, I think it may have been released in maybe the late 70s, but it was really an 80s thing. It was kind of one of those cusp songs in my mind. Of course, because it was, Joe Walsh has always been ahead of his time by about 30 years, so, you can't expect anything less, just my opinion. But anyway, so, and I started thinking about it, and of course immediately, my brain went to Malcolm Gladwell's book. I read it several years ago. Oh my God, it's like probably 10 years, about a decade or more ago. It was that Outliers. And it looked at some very complicated multiple regression, I guess you could call it. Some statistics to make sense of things. Of course, it also looks at common sense, too. Which is, he was looking at, in this book, Outliers, he was looking at, one of the examples he used was hockey players, and he could identify who would be the most successful, basically by their birth date. And so their birth date was like in February, I think it was, or the end of February, early March, whatever it was. There was a perfect day. So if you're being born that day, then your maturation level, your maturity level, your growth, your exercise, your time that you have available to you, your genotype, your phenotype, everything lines up. If you could be born on a certain day, then you could be the best hockey player ever, In fact, the best hockey players were all born on, within just a couple of days of the dates that he listed there. They were all born in that little time period. And that makes sense. Personally, I'm gonna ramble here for a minute, but I want you to get what I'm talking about here. But I was born in November, which is it's you're one of the oldest people in your class typically, because the cutoff line is times September, and if you're like me, this is another thing, in a small town in the 80s, of course, 70s and 80s, you were very few people in your class. In my graduating class, I think there was around 30 people. If you can even comprehend 30 people being in a graduating class at a school. But that's what it was for me. So in 1990. But I was born in the fall, early fall. And what that means is I was one of the oldest ones in the class. You could start school, I think, in like the end of September, maybe October, like October 1 through whatever months as you start that school year of the previous year or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So there's this these birth dates that align with when you can start school. So if you're one of the oldest, you're in a better situation because there are people in that same class born in late July. And unfortunately, both of my sons were born in late July. So there's some of the youngest kids in their classes. I almost held them back, younger, but I thought, shit, let them go. Do so good. Okay, but so what am I talking about with this birth thing? Year, month, whatever. I remember reading about this several years ago. I don't think it was in the Malcolm Gladwell book, but it could have been, because it's basically the same principle in some ways. And I'm going to get to the 80s in a minute here, but, if you're born at a certain point in time, then there are a lot of things available to you. Like, just say, if you look at what years Steve Jobs and Bill Gates were born, they're like 55, 1955, I believe it is, that both of them were born, somewhere around that time period. They were born at the right time and the right place with at the peak. It's like the fire was burning the right temperature for them to be able to do really well in the fields that they did well in, which is, computers. And they were ruthless business people too, but they were there at the right time. The right time has a lot to do with it. Now, Generation X, me, my cohorts, typically born between, 60 and 80 or 61 and 81 or somewhere around there, these are people that were born and lived. They probably weren't as spoiled as the kids that were born a little bit before us. I think the baby boomer generation, which is the 20 years before that, which is like between 40 and 60, those guys there had it really great. Those guys have had, they were at the pinnacle apex of American history. Right now, you can say what you want to say, but we are in decline. It's a natural progression. We can extend the curve if we, don't get some kind of a dictatorship or authoritarian or extreme leftist, stuff ruling us. But we're not. Now there could be several bumps too. Now I'm not saying there can't. I'm just, I would love for there to be able to, for my children to have the same opportunity that me and my parents had. My parents are baby boomers, and I'm a Generation Xer. They were born in the late 40s, which makes them the very middle of the baby boomers. And I was born in 71, which is the very middle of Generation X. And if you're born in America in that sweet little time period, better to be a boomer or an early Gen Xer. But it's still good to be a mid-Gen Xer. Don't get me wrong. But those are very sweet spots. That's the apex of all of it, man. That's the ultimatum, man. That's the big daddy. That's the granddaddy of it all, man. That's the OG. That's the supreme OG right there, outside of the grid. Old granddad. So now you want to be born there. It's really great. When you're born is important. If you were born in 10,000 BC, your life would be a whole lot different than born in 2000. And I'm not saying that things are bad. I'm not saying things have ever been bad. I mean, it is what it is. It's good or bad. There's no such thing as good or bad. I sometimes tell the story of the old Chinese farmer. The Chinese farmer, his horse ran away one day, and everybody, all of his neighbors came around. I was like, "Oh man, I'm sad to hear that one of your horses ran away, man. That's horrible, man. I know you need it to plow their fields and your fields and such." And the old farmer, he's a smart guy. He's one of those Dallas guys. He's not going to get in a big hurry about it. He's got a focused. He's intentional. The word is now, but he's not going to be judging. You can't make judgments, because if he makes judgments, it starts becoming some one way or the other. You become what you think about. So he just says, well, maybe so. It's bad news, maybe so. Well, the very next day, after that, 7 horses just run up on his property. And everybody runs up there, and they're going, oh my God, man, look at the luck you have. Just yesterday, you'd lost one of your major steeds, and now today you've got this 7 horses here. And it's like, oh my God, you just have such great fortuitous luck. There's a dog barking in my background. You have to excuse him. But anyway, so and everybody, came around and was like, oh my God, it's just so great, it's so great. And he's like, yeah, maybe. Well, the very next day, one of his sons, his oldest son, goes out there and tries to break one of those horses, this wild horses that had ran up on their property the previous day. And he gets bucked off the horse and thrown on the ground. He breaks his leg. And everybody comes around that afternoon going, oh my God, this is the most horrible thing. His leg is broken. Your oldest son, oh my God, what are you going to do? This is so horrible. This is the most horrible thing ever. And he goes, well, maybe. The very next day, the conscription officer comes around. This is the guy that drafts people into the army. And he says, hey, I need your son. I said, well, my oldest son can't go. He's got a broken leg. In fact, I have no other sons. All the other children are daughters. And everybody comes around that afternoon and says, oh, my God, so good, so good, so good, so good. The old farmer is he's burned out from all this recent experiences of his, and he goes, maybe. That's the joke. So, maybe a good thing. Of course, things are different now. I am generally optimistic, about where we're at and where we're going. I mean, I know it can be fixed. I believe that it can. I believe that we will come together. I think that there's ways. It's like a man and a woman, Sometimes they break up, but it's so much better if you can keep everything together and come together and not be breaking up, because it's really dumb. It's really the stuff that people have us fighting over right now. A bunch of spoiled people that have way too much money are up there fighting right now, and over dumb shit. I'm so fucking pissed off at it. Little drama queens running around, all of them multi-millionaires shaking their asses. You little bitch, and all this kind of shit up there. I mean, what the fuck is conservative about any of this shit right here? There's nothing there as Ronald Reagan. See, that's the thing, man. In the 80s, babies, we had Ronald Reagan. He was a Republican, but he was also a fucking Democrat. He didn't want to kill babies, shit like that. He's like, no, man, that's a bad fucking idea, But he was like, hey, sometimes you got to. If somebody rapes your daughter, I'm not going to be raising some fucking kid like that, bro. I don't want to. If I had my preference, if I had my druthers, I'm not going to let him win the survival of the fits, bro. Fuck that. I'm killing this motherfucker off. He's a rapist. I'm not letting those genes go on. Now, if it has to, it has to, and you'll love and do whatever. But if you had your druthers, that's one argument. I don't know. I can argue both sides of it. Of course, this really doesn't, affect me at all, because of the fact that I'm, I don't really have a part in it. Women should make that decision. They should decide who they want to mate with and who they want to have children with. It should not be up to me. That's a women's health care issue. Just like I don't want, women deciding what I do with my health care. Whatever I want to do is my business. If I make an informed decision, it's my informed decision and not yours. The government should not be in it. This is the thing. I hear people, I come from the 70s and I'm an 80s child, okay? I turned 18 in 89, so I came to life. I came of age in the 80s. That was my fucking time period. That was whenever I was hitting maturation. That's whenever I opened my eyes and looked at the world and I saw what was going around me. And I'm still doing it. And I'm still seeing. I'm not seeing what I saw then. I saw a bunch of extremists when I look out right now. A bunch of crazy motherfuckers. Crazy motherfuckers. That's the best way to describe it. They're a bunch of fucking... the divide and conquer thing? These people have all read and have been taught and grinded into their heads the art of war. And that's all they're doing. The art of war, they are not coming together. So maybe they should listen to a little bit of the Beatles. Come together right now, baby, over me. Just right on up there. Like that AC/DC song. This is another time period, Right on. Right on. I got myself a one-way ticket. Right on. On a dead-end road. Right on. Happy Saturday.